Five, four, three.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate. Oh, my feelings. How are you, sir?
Doing great, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, you watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you, and we spin it all around. This month of December, it is December to Dismember. It is all horror Christmas themed movies. Well, most of it. The last weekend is going to be working on it. But it will be there. And to help us out to start us off with, is a little movie called Black Christmas. Now, before we got into it, I've never heard of Black Christmas. It was my first time watching it, so it's going to be interesting tonight. To help us out with it, to talk about it, is our good friend Nadia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back and talking about one of my favorite movies, the original 1974, not those crappy remakes. So I'm very excited to get into it with you guys.
Awesome.
And we'll be talking about the remakes later. Oh boy.
Oh my God. I did not have that on my notes though. So you're all
like to torture. You like to torture.
No, feelings is
a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. You know.
Nadia,
Right.
don't get into our personal drama here.
No, 2024 is like the year of the beefs between whoever. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
I dived into it too deep like a couple of weeks ago, and it still lingers on. Holy hell. Anyway, to start us off with this, 1974, same year that Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, and feelings kind of reminded me of it, but I was at the back of my mind. Another kind of half groundbreaking movie of sorts, right, Feels?
Essentially, they were the prototype for the slasher. They built the mold, and then everyone else kind of just replicated it directly or put their own unique twist. Specifically, to really let the big one to start off was John Carpenter with Halloween.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in just a moment. Just recognizing Kalikioki with 1 gifted membership. Who got it? Feckless Finn.
Oh, hi, Finn.
Hi. All right. We start the show as we normally do with a little segment called Behind the Screen.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the Screens is where we turn to All My Feelings, get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, production stuff. Take it away, sir.
So there's a lot about this movie, which is really interesting. First and foremost, how many names does this movie have overall?
2 that I could gather, scraped off the bottom of the barrel.
In total, including international names that have different translations?
Oh, no.
18.
Oh, whoa!
18?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Like legit names or made
legit
up?
names. Yeah. Well,
Okay,
legit names for the
Okay.
beginning production and post production. Yeah, it's crazy. Originally, it was written under the name Stop Me, and that was supposed to be the name of it by the original creator of the concept. But oddly, it was inspired by a string of murders that happened in Montreal in 1941.
Yep.
Home invasion murders. Yeah, they were very, very, very brutal. Sorry, not 41, 43. Misnote.
Really doesn't matter.
Yeah. The film producers were brought in to actually change the script entirely to try to fit more of the sorority theme. So originally it was more of kind of, oh, the call's coming from the house,
Mm.
which it's still included, but yeah. So Bob Clark, the director, when he got his hands on the script, it was very straightforward. It was essentially just the setup for really, if you look at the subsequent any kind of horror sequels, they're always just paint by numbers. That's what the original Black Christmas was. It had no really setup or anything behind the characters, no real character motivations, no stories behind them. Just like these wacky kids are in this situation and now they're brutally murdered, and that's it. So Bob Clark decided to change it by adding in a lot of the levity, especially everything that Barb's, as it were, and a lot of Mrs. Mack was actually
the drinking stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Mack and her whole attitude and demeanor, he said that's solely based off my aunt.
Okay. All right.
Was
All
she
right.
alive when this movie came out? Because that would have been an awkward family.
I think
dinner.
she was already dead because that's from the
Oh,
DVD
okay.
commentary that came out like 10 years afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So Olivia Hussey took the role of Jessica after she had but won major acclaim for playing Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. And she took the role because she was told to do so by a psychic. She was told by the psychic that she would make a film in Canada and it would make her a lot of money.
Did she make a lot of money?
Actually, on the back end, yes.
Oh,
Because of
okay.
appearance fees.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She's
So the
also-
psychic wasn't wrong.
It's not Jack Nicholson back end.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
She also was in It. Stephen
Yes, she
King's
was.
It.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Krampus Jeebus. Miss Cleo told her to make.
Oh,
Okay.
So,
Do continue.
Kier Dullea was sought after by Bob Clark due to his
Oh,
one specific role.
Stop.
Yep.
Kier Dullea.
Dullea, whatever.
Yes. Respect.
Whatever. Well, you already know then. He was already sought after because of his role in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was nobody that was up for the role Bob Clark is
He
like,
wanted
I
him.
want
Yeah,
him,
that guy.
and that's it.
That's it.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one person that he couldn't get for a role was for Mrs. Mack, because he wanted
Who?
Betty Davis to play Mrs. Mack.
Interesting. Okay.
It would at that age, it would have actually fit.
It would have
Betty
worked, but she flat out refused.
Why?
Like,
Because of the alcoholism stuff?
Horror wasn't back then, to my knowledge.
That's right.
yeah,
It wasn't
very,
like it's like where careers kind of go to die. And
yeah.
the opposite. Younger actors or actresses, it was like their start off to get roles and to get stuff under their belt. But if you were older, it's kind of where your career went to kaboots. So
Yeah. Not that her career was that like here at 1974, but yeah. She was less like I'm ready for Mr. DeMille and more like I want to yeah. Have you seen Death on the Nile?
Yes.
a long time ago. I don't even remember it. Maybe that's a good thing.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But she's like she's the only actress in Death on the Nile that you're like, yeah, she didn't really want to be there. She just wanted the payday. Yeah.
Paycheck.
It's just like basically anything with Marlon Brando in the last like 10 years of his career.
Or 15.
Or maybe most of it, to be honest.
Or maybe most of it, yeah.
But
all right, please continue. Sorry for derailment.
No, you're fine. Gilda Radner was initially cast to play Phyllis, and would have been actually, I think, really great in the role. But she had to turn it down due to all of the contract and stipulations that SNL demanded at the time. So she actually got Andrea Martin the role because they were, Nadia, you're going to love this, fellow Chicagoan, they were in Second City together.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have seen that coming.
Yep. Edmund O'Brien was initially cast as Lieutenant Fuller, but he couldn't fulfill his obligations because he had Alzheimer's.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of sad. But John Saxon was brought in, and oddly, what's really weird is the fact that the director actually initially wanted Saxon for the role anyway.
But he wanted like an Oscar-winning actor to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So because it used to be that if you had an Oscar-winning actor on your roster,
you could put
like, this is guaranteed to sell to movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So
I assume you're going to get to it, but I'm curious to know what the budget was and what happened
at the very end. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. It's
the very end. Yeah.
So Nick Mancuso was offered the role of Billy after he did multiple auditions with Bob Clark. And how he did the auditions was he sat back to back with him while doing the voice recordings.
Nice. So you got like he was hired by the voice rather than just the performance.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We're gonna get more into Billy in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
What's interesting about how it was shot, all of the POV scenes that you see from Billy's perspective, it was really actually very revolutionary at the time because they really hadn't used this very often. Was they actually had the camera operator attach it to his shoulder and mount it on, so like it was basically like it almost looked like a Frankenstein-esque torture device the way that it was set up, because the way that he had to rig it onto his shoulder on his head so it could look like it was from his actual eyesight, and he actually did climb with it on.
My God. So like an early Steadicam, just not a
Steadicam GoPro. Yeah. Okay. Way early. Yeah, it was very interesting how the way that they pulled it off.
Man, kids don't know how kids have it easy these days.
Yeah, I know.
Making movies, man. They don't understand.
Claire's death scene was really, really interesting. Because how they actually got the surprise out of the actress, Lynn Griffin, was they did multiple different takes, but Meffistoe would pop out at different times and literally just scare her.
Kubrick style?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
But what's so great is Lynn Griffin was down for it. She was perfectly fine with it. And also how they did the scene with how she dies by being asphyxiated with the bag was her in the rocking chair and everything, the long pauses, yet with her eyes open and not breathing. That's just her.
Mm-hmm.
Not breathing.
She was a deep sea swimmer, and she could hold her breath for over 2 minutes.
Wow.
That's why it looks so good instead of using
because it's
big
real
dummy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the great thing about it is Lynn was completely fine with it.
I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I did not have that. Okay.
Yeah. So now we're gonna move a little bit to the music side because it's very interesting with the way that was done. Carl Zitter, the composer, he actually created a lot of the different kind of sound and heavy string effects by putting different implements up on his piano while he was recording them, like forks, knives, scissors, in order to get like a different kind of alternative, almost like a distorted sound. And then how he actually made that switch a little bit more on big stings was he would record it on an audio tape, then play it back in slow motion, then re-record it.
To get the reverb on it?
So really, really big effect on the stings. It's really, really interesting. Then one bit about the audio work. Mancuso was so interesting because it wasn't just Billy, obviously Mancuso, doing the voices for Billy. It was also Bob Clark. They both were doing the voices. That's why you can tell like the female voices. That's Bob Clark.
Okay.
Yeah. But Mancuso, how he would actually stress out to make all those weird noises, he would stand on his head.
Wow.
Okay.
To compress his thorax in order to make those gurgling noises. Yeah.
See, old techniques.
Yeah. I mean, but old school kind of Foley work.
Yeah.
So moving a little bit forward. So Warner Brothers, for the American release, we're going to talk about names and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But first, they actually wanted to change the ending of the film entirely.
Okay.
So what they wanted is they actually wanted it to actually be Chris the whole time.
To be Chris.
So like Billy wasn't actually like, well, it was still Billy, but it was actually the murderer overall was going to be Chris at the end. It's going to be revealed because Chris was going to be next to Jess and saying, Agnes, they'll never know.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get it.
I wonder how that would have taken if that would have been receptive. By the way, Chris has a great fur coat in this movie.
Yes, he does. The search party scene? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
nice. you know something about, there is a note about that fur coat. Do you have it?
No, if you want to go ahead.
It's actually his own coat that he brought in. Yeah. Sort of like Big Lebowski style. Yeah.
Which does make sense because his Canadian accent is very thick.
Yeah.
I could sorry.
Sorry.
I love the fact that there is a moment there where they're in that hockey ring and he has the Jason hockey face mask. And I was like, if this was not just painted on with the sort of college colors, it would have been great.
Yeah.
But I can see sort of where the inspiration came from. But yeah.
So, but for that note, though, Clark actually refused to have that in there. He wanted the ambiguity there to be open. So,
yeah,
they didn't go with it. But they did get one thing. Warner Brothers did have for the initial screening to have them change the name.
From Stop Me to Black Christmas?
No, from Black Christmas to Silent Night, Evil Night on the first screening. Why? Because at the time, They were afraid it was going to be confused with blaxploitation films.
Oh.
Which is
Well,
which is dumb because Bob Clark wanted Black Christmas to be the opposite of White Christmas, the
Yeah.
song,
yeah.
and that play on words, and he didn't even think about like black and that sort of
No,
thing.
but
It's sort of
that's why we get Silent Night, Deadly Night, which we're talking about later.
yeah. Okay.
But after the initial screening, Warner Brothers just changed it back, and then it was back to Black Christmas. So yeah.
Okay.
Now for the last note, is a little bit somber but funny in a way with its odd timing. So
Okay.
for the US TV premiere, it was going to be on NBC's Saturday Night at the Movies, which is going to air on January 28th, 1978. This is an important date.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks prior, good old Ted Bundy had just murdered a whole bunch of girls on a college campus in Florida State University.
Yeah, in a sorority house.
Yeah. Actually, in 2 sorority houses.
In one sorority house he murdered, and the other one he just assaulted and did other things.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
yeah.
they had a lot of Go ahead.
So so NBC, like it was the governor of Florida told the wrote to the leaders at NBC, like, hey, we can't show this film. No, that's not okay for our affiliates here. So their affiliates were actually given the opportunity to show a different film. Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze.
Yeah, but NBC had ended up doing like a nationwide release, so they didn't even show it anywhere else. Not in Florida and not anywhere else.
But also NBC at the time, when they had the rights to actually distribute it on network television at the time, they actually had the film under a different name too.
And
it wasn't Black Christmas, it was Stranger in the House.
Okay.
That could have worked. I don't think it would have been as iconic as it is nowadays, because when you mention Black Christmas, and especially for those that love horror movies, because it's influenced so many other movies that come after it. Even Terrifier 3 had a nod to it.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna watch that movie.
You should.
No.
You should.
I watched
one of these days,
1,
buddy.
and I'm good. I'm good. I know it goes progressively worse. I am good.
No,
2 is worse than 3, I think, in my opinion.
I agree with that, because it's mostly just the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2 where it's like, okay, it's intimate. You crossed the line.
Let's just say this, and I've said it behind the scenes, and I think I said it publicly. I have seen enough stuff last year to, like, Terrifier does nothing to me. I just don't want any PTSD going back to real shit that I've watched. I'm good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But
I'm good.
If you decide to do 2 or 3 on this channel, please include me.
We're not even doing 1.
It would have to be one of those weeks when Meph is gone, then I take over the reins and learn how to do all this shit, because I would love to talk about Terrifier, but I know
make your own channel. Go ahead.
You know what? I'll have you on mine. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, Nadia. Okay, yeah. Let me know. Invite me on that one. We can talk about Terrifier all day long.
Okay.
All right. Before you do the budget, I've got one thing that I want to slip in. Because
buddy, you go and do the budget too. Go ahead.
I have it. I'm not sure it's real because I've seen it in 2 different areas, and I've seen it on like a YouTube video of like explaining the end. It's like, and one thing that came up is the fact that there was a sequel planned. Bob Clark started to work on it, sort of a rough draft with a writer, an unnamed writer. Couldn't find the name of the writer. It's not the original one though. The synopsis was Billy gets caught somewhere else. put in an asylum, and the movie kind of starts with him escaping the asylum and going back to the house and restarting the killing, which really is kind of like
Halloween.
Halloween, where he
yeah.
escapes. And John Carpenter really liked Black Christmas and gave a lot of props to Bob Clark, and maybe sort of could have watched the synopsis for Black Christmas 2 and
Actually,
kind of got him started. Maybe.
On another note, do you know who also really loved this movie, Meth? That you never thought of?
Wes Craven.
No, Steve Martin loves this movie.
Steve Martin?
Yep.
Of all people?
Yep.
Okay.
He met Olivia Hussey.
Good taste.
Yeah, because it was on the DVD commentary. Like Olivia Hussey mentioned, like, no, I met Steve Martin on press junket, and he walked up to me and said, "Oh, I love your work," and I thought he was talking about Julia. I was, no, I love Black Christmas.
Okay. Cool. Budget was $650,000, and the movie made about $4 million. I couldn't tell if it's just domestic or worldwide.
I think that's worldwide, and that's before, re-releases and subsequent stuff. Because it's like the old horror films, Nadia, where like they became major cult classics that everybody who likes horror, like, oh, I own this. Of course I do.
I'm pretty sure it made a killing once VHSs, like home videos, were a thing.
Yeah.
So that's the boom of the 80s.
What's the day that it was released? What's the date? Do you guys have that?
Oh, I don't have it on me. Sorry.
I'd be curious to know.
I'll tell you in a second. Because I'm really big in
1974.
December
20th.
Okay.
So around Christmas. It's interesting because normally they don't really, even if it's a horror related Christmas movie, usually it's not that close to Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think in a lot of ways too, that I think that's more of a modern phenomenon where like this would definitely be a January release nowadays. Yeah.
I think they started doing like February horror stuff a few years back. So Megan fell on February. Insidious fell on February. Nefarious fell on February.
date nights for Valentine's
Day kind of a thing. Yeah.
Oh, I was,
not all of them.
Oh, I meant that the studio wasn't actually sure in it, so it would be a January release because that's where that's where they you dump a movie there, be like, well, nothing else get out there, maybe it'll get something. Because
I'm just saying that's why Wolfman 2025 is going to January, and that's all I can say.
Oh boy, oh no,
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about
that.
Wasn't
as bad as the Benicio del Toro Wolfman movie?
I signed an NDA. I cannot say anything about it. I'll tell you picture.
Okay.
Oh, don't tell us backstage. Don't say that publicly.
I mean, I'm not going to.
NDA. No. You're not telling us. No.
She's never going to tell anybody anything ever.
Nothing.
All right. Let's go into the movie a little bit before we do our first game, shall we? You mentioned POV. I'll get to there. Let's see that. All right. There we go. So you mentioned POV, half Steadicam, half whatever. I went back because I wanted to see if this is the first movie that had a killer POV kind of is it as groundbreaking as they say it is? Well, technically, the first kind of official POV murderer kind of a thing is Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
Oh,
at least
say Psycho.
On the sort of on the back foot. By the way, they both came out in 1960. Peeping Tom and Psycho. However, Peeping Tom's POV is much, much, much different than this movie. So in Peeping Tom, you actually do see the killer to be. You see he's a photographer, he's a cameraman. So his POV is sort of through the lens of the camera. And if I'm not mistaken, you don't see any murders happening through the POV. So it's much different. I would say this one's the first of its kind where you do see it, where it got replicated later on in Friday the 13th, where it's Mrs. Voorhees and all that stuff. So it's sort of very different movie, this one, as compared to Peeping Tom. And I would give this one the lead in terms of, okay, this is the first one that did killer POV, let's say groundbreaking, or the first one to do it. Is it the same though? Not exactly. But again, all the other ones that came after it were always taking bits and pieces. They didn't take everything from it.
Okay.
But of course, we start the movie. There's a big party, the sorority house. It's Pi K something.
It's Pi Kappa Sigma, right? Yeah.
Sigma, whatever it is. So sorority house, we can kind of see all the different types of characters. So Margot Kidder's character is more of the, the more, by the way, all of them look like college age. Margot Kidder looks like she's 40. She was not 40 at the time.
I wouldn't say so. She does look like she's maybe like in her mid-20s compared to the rest of the girls, but
her sort of sarcastic tones are like, oh, there's Lois Lane. You definitely see Lois Lane there in the sorority house.
Well, and also her line like that. I now want to use this as an insult now. Gold-plated whore. Oh, never heard that one before. Wow. I completely forgot that line.
But yeah, so we get to see sort of, get to see the insides, get to a little bit of a feel of who's the more timid, shy person, who's the the background chicks. You kind of see it, but don't. And then it swishes up to that killer POV. You hear the score kind of differ between the inside of the house and outside of the house, and you hear the breathing kind of interlude between the whole thing and him entering the house kind of via the window. And again, it goes back and forth. Hi, James. Welcome. I see you. I see.
One thing I did think that was really, really interesting, though, is that Margot Kidder has stated that this was her favorite shoot of her entire career. So that they had the most fun on set. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because one of my notes I had it for the show itself is that Olivia Hussey was sort of the linchpin of the group, where she wanted everybody to be friends, and Margot Kidder was not, and they had sort of a tension between those two.
Oh, that's odd because Margot Kidder had been in several interviews. She said that this was her favorite.
Then I got a different note from somewhere.
Well, she may have changed her mind.
I have no idea. That's what I got.
All fake news.
Yeah, fake news. Fake news. All of it.
I mean, I could see it, but maybe it's just my perception. I mean, Margot Kidder isn't she bipolar or developed bipolar at some point?
Yes.
She went.
Yeah.
I don't want to say she went crazy, because bipolar is not really crazy, but she's manic depressive. So you could get the good Margot and the bad Margot. So I don't know.
So James, what are you implying, sir?
Sorry.
Yeah, but there's that moment where
I think that's what it is, Nadia. They say sorry too much, so it drives them slowly mad.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. So we get to see Billy kind of entering the house, going through the attic, where the attic seems a bit off to what this house is, and we don't really get the full story. we get only bits and pieces as the movie kind of gets going. There, all of the information we got from Billy is sort of his conversations with whoever when he gets to make that call. And I think only on the second or third viewing you might catch all the different things that kind of build into sort of like it was probably his house when he grew up. Something happened. Maybe he was the one responsible. He had a sister probably called Agnes. That's why you mentioned Agnes.
It's very, very clear that there was something, that he did something very, very wrong with Agnes, including the R word, and the R word gets brought up on several occasions in this film, which is like, nah, I wouldn't fly today, but
yeah, but it wouldn't fly today because nobody wants to go there. Yeah. Until there's a brave individual, probably in an indie film, that will go there, and it would make. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say it would make an impact.
It's correlating with Halloween a lot, because Halloween, story of Michael, killing his sister, going through the house and stuff like that, and then going back to the house. So it sees a lot of correlations between the two. See where
and like I said, the planned sequel is going into more depth into the story of Billy, and that's why there's sort of maybe implications that John Carpenter kind of, I don't want to say stolen, but got inspired from that sort of synopsis, because it was a synopsis supposedly, and got to develop it into something sort of very different from that whole story, but using that as a sort of okay, that is the block, and then I'm going to take it somewhere else where it's much more graphic. And we can mention now.
I would say now if Billy had been wearing an Inside Out Leonard Nimoy mask, then I would call plagiarism on Mr. Carpenter's part.
An Inside Out Leonard Nimoy mask.
Well, that's the Michael Myers is just.
Yeah, I know, but why Leonard Nimoy is the opposite?
Because he's the second. Because it's the second.
No, it should have been like a Sulu mask rather than a Kirk mask. Never mind. Insider Trekkie joke. Never mind.
I got because he's second in command.
Not because he's second in command, because George Takei and Shatner had a long-lasting feud, so they're opposites. Never mind.
Oh wow, no, that's even digging way too deep, buddy. I gotta take away your shovel.
Fine, an outside and like a Nimoy mask. Fine, okay, fine. I'll relent. So Billy's in the house. Remind me the Lynn's character.
Claire.
The girl gets killed first.
Claire.
So Claire is like, I don't want to party anymore. I'm gonna go tomorrow. As somebody, I don't think she mentions that her father picks her up, but her father is about to pick her up to go to
her father's
family.
In fact, like she tells Chris that Chris is going to meet her father for the first time, and it's a big deal. Yeah,
and Chris, there's a moment where all the boys kind of get vacated out of the house, and that's where you get the sort of like the first call, and Margot Kidder's on the phone. And they already had these kind of phone calls already with these like moaning creeps. It's like, oh, there's a moaning creep again. Here we go.
It's the moaner again.
Man,
yeah.
How many times they said the C word on that phone call? I was like, wow, I completely forgot about this.
Okay. So there's a thing with the C word. Now, originally in the script, all the really dirty words are not there. So when Bob Clark was on the phone, when they shot the shot, Nick Mancuso wasn't even talking. It was Bob Clark. They just didn't record it most of the time. And he was doing the voice, and he was going off the sort of official toned down script. And when Nick Mancuso got doing the sort of ADR for it, then they went a little bit more racy. just because they didn't want to sort of shock the actresses there. They didn't want them at that particular state. When it was going on the UK of all places, they changed the C word. Even though in England, the C word is not really a thing as it is in the US.
Frivolous,
Yeah.
It's some way like I could call Meth like, oh Meth, you stupid cunt. And
Yeah,
it's more
sort of.
like it doesn't have that. It's not the hard C word
that we have here. Yeah,
in the parlance. Yeah,
Yeah.
Interesting. I think it would be more to get it past the studio instead of not insulting the actresses, in sense like, because they're gonna have people in the studio on set listening to these things. So because if they were full C word, they probably would have been shut down, or like, no, you have to tone that down.
yeah.
Interestingly enough, like above all the other stuff that it inspired, this is the first studio-made film that actually included that word in that context.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah.
I mean, it works. It's very unnerving when he's on the phone the first time, especially from a woman's point of view. That's very unnerving listening to him go through that.
Yeah, like you said, it's of that specific moment, of that specific time, and that specific context to say to these ladies while you're trying to scare them, essentially. All right, cool. Let's do our first game of the night. It is called Missing Market. Missing Marquee is where...
real quick. Meth is gonna say, yeah, we kind of need to let the air breathe after C-word bit.
Exactly.
Not even the most gruesome part of the movie.
Yeah, I know. Murder, we're fine with. C-word, no, sir.
No.
Yeah. Words, whatever. Missing Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off, we display them, and Nadia will have to guess what movie this is. And of course, the chat, the almighty chat, is here to help you. And if not, there's always All My Feelings. Okay. Let's go. I need to bring it up a little bit. Yeah.
This is actually, oddly, this is one of the best films that Mark Wahlberg's ever been in.
Oh, no. Sincerely disagree. Sincerely disagree.
Paul has it. Three Kings, because I don't know.
Three Kings.
It's about a bunch of soldiers going back after Desert Storm to find Iraqi money or gold.
Yeah. Gold.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Wedding Crashers?
Yep. Wedding Crashers is correct.
The Truman Show?
No.
No?
Oh no. It's the one where he's God.
No, that's not the one where he's God. That's Bruce Almighty.
This is a weird poster too.
Yes, a very weird poster. The other one is not as good. Is not as good.
Oh,
James has got it.
Yes,
it
man.
is
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
man.
There's no context clues for that one. So Nadia, missing that one's pretty easy.
To me, this was sort of a continuation to Liar Liar, where in Liar Liar he has to tell the truth, and in Yes Man he has to say yes to anything suggested to him, which kind of goes on a tangent. It's not that great, but it's not a terrible movie.
Oh, The Aristocats.
The Aristocats is correct.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about this movie, Meth. That's gonna be so much fun.
I don't know.
It was one of the songs that Billy Madison sings on his first day back to kindergarten. Back to school, back to school. I could prove to my dad that I'm not a fool.
Never seen it.
You know what? It also contains a very, very, very young Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Devil Wears Prada. Devil Wears Prada.
Correct.
Fugitive.
The Fugitive is correct.
League of Their Own. No, not League of Their Own.
No.
Wrong movie.
Very different movie.
Very different movie. And very different gender.
I've seen this movie, both the original and remake, and for some reason I can't. It's I don't. It's been a long time.
Chat will help you.
Come on, chat. I'm calling it in.
The first
one
is
Thank you.
Again, it is The Longest Yard.
I said the original had the same person in it.
I just saw this. The Warriors.
The Warriors is correct. Warriors.
If you haven't seen this movie, Nadia, you should see it. This movie is fantastic.
If you ever see any wrestling movie or wrestling based movie, this is the first one.
Yeah.
Gate of
This
Marvel
is called
Wrestler.
The Wrestler.
The Wrestler.
It's so goddamn good.
Okay.
It is very, very, very good. That's it. Oh, call. Nice. That's it.
It's like
I didn't
Mickey
do
Rourke's best performance.
You did good. You did good. That's like everybody's so worried about this game. It's like, don't worry. First
Well,
of all,
I don't see movies.
there's
I've
chat
never
over
seen
here
them.
where I can
Yeah.
see it. And secondly, there's me. There's all my feelings. Don't worry about it. We're here to help. We're here to help and educate. The only problem is what happens with people who kind of get into like, okay, I need to go back into the past and watch movies, is me and him might go on a tangent on like super mega spoilers on the movie, and then it kind of ruins it for people.
Oh,
But c'est la vie. All right.
yeah. My next round will be Lethal Weapon. I have not seen any of the Lethal Weapons, so that will be
Good.
my next.
1,
Round.
2, stop.
No.
That's what everybody
No.
said.
No. Continue to 3 because
No.
it has merit. Because if you don't see 3, you cannot see National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon Part 1.
So again, stop at 2.
And then
3.
4.
How many?
Because-
How many are there? There's 4, right? I
4.
think.
And they're
Okay.
working on 5.
Are they too
They're-
old?
They're too old.
They are literally too old for this shit.
Yes. Yes. All right. So we're going into sort of like the first murder. And to be fair, it is the only murder for most of the movie.
Mhm.
Really, really strange. Because normally you don't kind of in a typical horror slasher movie, you get a sort of half an hour to 40 minutes of a buildup, and then it goes one by one. They go, and in this one, they went either because it's the first one of its kind, or I don't know, with how they built that pacing of the movie, you get that initial shock of Billy's first murder, where he kind of jumps from, like I put it on the screen before. He kind of jumps through after that whole. They did kind of do like a more of a sort of a thriller kind of a thing where you think it's gonna come, but then it doesn't, and then it actually bumps off, and it kind of gives you that jump scare with the whole play on the cat, and the cat comes in later with Mrs.
Yes,
Mac.
and don't bring
Yeah.
up cats, because I mean Claude is now a second of just terrible, terrible kitties in films.
What's the first?
Jonesy,
Which one's Jonesy?
Aliens,
From Alien.
Oh, right.
Alien. Oh yeah, I couldn't warn
Yeah.
you. Oh wow, just watch you get murdered because I'm a cat.
Yeah.
And I'm evil.
Stop.
If you watch,
What?
I did a watch along for the first and second one, and the first one, I'm like, just leave the cat.
Yeah,
Like, why
Yes.
are you just
fuck that
just
cat.
leave the
Yeah.
yeah, leave the cat. And I have a cat, and I probably would leave you. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
It's okay. The cat would leave you too.
yeah,
That's
the cat
why I
would leave
don't
you
own
too.
any cats
No,
If it was a
anymore.
dog, if it was a dog, I can understand. Dogs,
No,
you know, they
God
need
would
us,
actually be
but
like, "Oh, well, I'm going to actually try to save you. I'm going to try to warn you." The cat's like,
I'm
"No,
gonna follow you.
Uh,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
would be really,
Excuse me.
really fucked up. I'm going to watch it."
What do you mean dog would help you? Have you seen Alien 3?
That's
We don't
true.
talk about
Never-
Alien 3.
We don't talk about Alien 3.
awful.
I have
But
seen
have you-
all of the Alien franchise and all of the Predator franchise since the last time I talked to you, both of you, except for Alien versus Predator 1 and 2. That's the last two I had
Skip
to
it.
finish.
It's fine.
Well, I would. The Alien AVP 1 is probably the dumbest film. Well, it's up there as the dumbest film I've ever seen. AVP
Okay.
2 is like, well, it's hard to call it a film because it's literally nearly pitch black the entire time.
That's
and
what
it's
everybody
nearly
says.
impossible to see anything
if
that's
you
going
don't-
on.
If you don't light your nights, it's the biggest pet peeve I have with movies when people don't light their nights properly.
So Black Christmas.
Sorry.
Like we mentioned before in the sort of behind the screens is the fact that Mrs. Mac and
Barbara.
Barbara
Yeah.
are both hell of a luscious. Let's just call it that. To me, again, this is like the first time I have encountered this movie. I've seen it twice this week, but the first thing that came to mind was, is Mrs. Mack an alcoholic? Because she opened up the book and she was hiding liquor
under
from
B for booze.
yeah.
Was she
But-
hiding the liquor so the girls don't get it because they'll drink it, or was she hiding the liquor because she's an alcoholic?
I
Was
think
it
she's
both?
hiding the liquor for herself.
Yeah, because there was alcohol served at the party because
Yeah.
Barbara was drinking whiskey when she answered so she had like a long distance phone call with her mom or family or whatever, and she was drinking at the party, which is okay. I get 18 was the age in 1974, so it's not really strange that college kids drink.
Well, no, it's not
Yeah,
even that.
it's
like,
not even strange nowadays
now,
either.
no,
Yeah.
Even, yeah.
You're in a sorority. You're assuming that they're drinking. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. But when she pulled the first bottle, I was like, okay, maybe she just wants to save it for herself. I'm not going to go into the alcoholic. But
well, to be fair,
then-
she pulled the alcoholics. Actually, that's a thing that they tell you to do if you're trying to help a recovering alcoholic, is to search around their house, and one of the places they will hide it is in their toilet tank. And that's where Mrs. Mack had a bottle.
that's where she pulled that. I think she was doing her makeup because the dad comes in to, he's
That's
like,
later.
he finds
That's
a sorority.
later.
Yeah, I know. I'm just moving the story along.
Yeah.
When she did the second pull of a bottle from the toilet thing, and I was like, okay, she is it used to be they didn't call it an alcoholic, they just call it she's a drunk or a drunkard, because nobody hides a bottle of whiskey in their toilet unless they're full-blown alcoholic. And
I
then
mean, it could be like
there's
a game. It could be a
Yeah,
game
and
she plays with herself.
and she also, before
I gotta
she
find out where I
died,
found the bottles before I blacked out, Nadia. Yay!
Yeah.
yeah, and she also pulled an empty bottle from her stash just before she died when she was looking for the cat. I was like, okay, I got it. But yeah, I was mentioning the dad, and the dad is waiting for Claire. He's waiting for Claire. Can't find her. It's been 30 minutes already, and back then, 30 minutes is a bit of a problem, I guess.
Well, you didn't have phone. You couldn't call to check it, see where people are running late.
No.
So when you say you're going to be there at a certain time, you better be there or find a way to communicate to the person you're going to be late.
Yeah,
And
there's
it really
no.
does seem overall too that Claire's the kind of person that would be poignant. Like she would be on time. Like, there is absolutely no way that she would not miss her dad.
This
So,
poster.
so he goes to the sorority, and this is sort of a famous piece from 1961. I want to say. Had a look. I think it's 1961, and it was a sort of a photo piece, and then they mass produced this to have like a poster. And she also had that sort of a peace sign where the I'm guessing a guy is on top of a girl, and she's like putting her hand on top of it and kind of blocking the butt crack. But of course, when she had to speak, she removed the hand, and the dad is like sort of like doing that disapprove look because he's prim and proper and all that stuff. And
well, and it also with Mrs. Max getting ready, like her condemnation of the girls too. But she just says, "Oh, these broads would hump the Leaning Tower of Pisa if they could get out of it." It's like,
yeah. And then when they go into the car, that juxtaposition of Claire already dead in the attic, and as it's sort of like zooms out and goes out of focus on one end and zooms in and focuses on this end, it was like, oh, they're so close. Now, I'm not joking. At this particular point, in my first time when I watched this, I was like, is nobody going into Claire's room because she's right there? And on the second viewing, it was like, oh, this is the attic.
She's in the attic. Yeah.
Mhm.
She's
Well,
not in a
even
room.
at the end of
Otherwise,
the film, like that's the big cutting shot at the end of the film where like, oh, this is like, where when are they gonna find Claire's body?
yeah. I was like, why is nobody going into Claire's room for some reason?
Oh,
But
thank
then,
you,
of course, realizing what's happening. All right. Oh, Jillian, and with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you. Crumpus got it. Jill's got it. Spike's got it. Luna and Rob. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jillian. That's very generous of you.
All right. And as an aside too, Meph, and Nadia, again, from Lynn Griffin's perspective, for her to do that take multiple times, sitting in that chair, just holding her breath with that plastic bag, it's like, good on you. You are a trooper.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Because when I saw this, I was thinking, how did they do it? Because the bag goes all the way into her mouth. Because I thought for a second maybe she was holding, a little plastic plug with a hole in it, so she can suck up air while they're doing the shot, as it kind of looks like it's sucking in, and she can hold take a deep breath, maybe try not to move and do that. But you're saying that it's a full-on bag, so
just holding her breath. Just
yeah,
That's very impressive.
really quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, most movies would have just had a dummy at this point
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of looks like her. Effects back then molded something to look like her face and just put it. But you probably would be able to obviously tell then at that point.
They didn't have
But of
Jesus like
course-
Tom Savini working really bad yet.
So at one point, I'm kind of skipping the fact that Jess has a little row with Peter, and Peter's like,
based in this. Actually, when he told her to get out, I was like,
"Oh yeah,
whoa.
Peter's."
Good on him, man.
I want to stress out how we'll call it progressive Jess's character is, because
Yes,
I think
that's
Roe v. Wade was in 1968, I think, and it was sanctioned by the Supreme Court 72. So her talking about getting an abortion is like, super surprising. And the fact that Peter doesn't want her to get rid of the baby is also kind of surprising, especially for that time. It's like, okay, we're going to get married. We're going to take care of this baby. I don't want you to get an abortion. I was like, whoa, okay. Interesting.
because that's the very kind of misdirection with Peter's character, because you automatically, especially like us in the modern audience. Yes, I'm using air quotes to myself like an idiot.
Yeah.
We automatically assume that Peter, being the artist, would be like, oh no, I understand that. In fact, if you were to have the baby, it would crush my dreams. So no, you need to get the abortion because it's going to ruin my life. But him going, well, no, I'm going to fuck up my recital essentially and my performance. So now I'm leaving the conservatory and we're getting married now. That's it.
Yeah, he's sort
interesting for the 70s.
And they had that conversation later on in the movie where he's like, I'm going to give up my dream because we need to take care of this baby, which is very conservative of a guy who's like hippy dippy, I would say, a little bit. And hers like, I'm not going to give up my career for no man.
This is like, I don't know. We
Right?
had dreams. You gave up on yours. I'm not giving up on mine. Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm going to get this abortion. Yeah.
Even way the girls act and the sorority and the concept of drinking and the looseness they are and such, very pro-feminist, I get throughout this movie for her.
Yeah,
and now added
pretty
this
much.
with the abortion. Yeah.
I would say that this is very like the first signs of like second wave feminism. Yeah.
Maybe even first,
Yeah.
to be fair.
And it's, to me, it's not surprised that a horror movie would be something that this is starting to take place in. Because again, back then, horror movies were not mainstream as they are nowadays.
Yeah, and if you put it in the context of Jess is really essentially the first ever final girl,
Mhm.
but she's not a virgin. So that doesn't really align just yet. It just later on it actually manifests itself in the final girl is the girl that does not have sex or is pure or virgin like in a sense. But as we said, Barbara is a humor machine as they go to the cops to complain, and the desk sergeant doesn't understand the 1-800 fellatio.
Fellatio 022002.
And I was like, really? Are you that dumb? And that later on, when they get the report and the other detective starts laughing, and then
That other detective cannot
Lieutenant
stop
Fuller.
losing his shit though. He is
Yeah.
just like, this is the funniest thing he has ever experienced in his whole goddamn life, and he is
Yeah.
milking every single second of screen time that he has.
And that sort of point, it was like Lieutenant Fuller, John Saxon's character, goes to the desk sergeant, and he's like, "Do you see the numbers that is written here? Do you understand?"
Fellatio. And finally he goes, "Oh, it's a dirty thing, huh?"
At that age, how do you not know what that word means?
Probably because he never experienced it before.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to assume.
Goddamn boomers.
Yeah.
But the other thing too that a note for Barb too beforehand, like how she's giving the kids champagne at the Santa.
Yes.
I think this kid schnockered.
Yeah.
On my rewatch, I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute. She didn't
Yeah.
get alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah. Jeeba says, "Is she drunk?" Yes. Yes.
All the time.
Both Mrs. Mack, both Margot Kidder and the person who played Mrs. Mack were, let's say, pushed to actually drink and actually be drunk or tipsy while they're doing their lines to be more authentic.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why she said it was one of the most fun sets she's ever been on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
She doesn't remember half of it.
So Peter screws up his own recital because he's got Jess on his mind. Jess is not even dealing with his shit. She's like, "I want to find Claire." She goes off, and like I said, she talks to Steve, Carl, her boyfriend, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, Claire's boyfriend, is like, "Okay, I'm going to come and help," and he dons the old fur coat and keeps going with it anywhere.
I love it. Men should dress like that more often nowadays. Maybe not in the desert where I live, but yeah.
Or the desert I live. We'll call it a pimp-like fur coat, especially in the 70s.
I would say that, like, think of a certain episode of Seinfeld.
Oh,
yep.
Kind of.
Kramer walking down the road.
Yeah, I love that episode. So they at a certain point, and I love this shot. This shot is great. This is where Mrs. Mack is still looking for the cat, but not really finding it. And she's about to die, but she doesn't really know it. And everybody else is trying to get the police to actually do something about it. And they start the search party, but they find this high school girl that you see sort of snippet of her mom giving testimony at the very start before you see the gang kind of come in and give their sort of like, "We need to find Claire." And it manifests itself into, we found this girl, and you don't see the girl at all.
No.
You don't see her body, nothing. You just get the reaction from the mom, sort of like,
No. It actually wasn't the mom. It was the girl that found her, but with the scream, it sounded like a younger girl's scream. So it was supposed to be like in a way, it's the first kind of horror misdirect in a pseudo slasher. Like, this is the prototype of it, where you hear the scream and it's a cutaway of another girl from the search party finding Janice, who is the high schooler's body.
Yeah.
Which I like that they don't show the body or anything. It leaves the
Yes.
imagination
Yeah.
of how bad it could truly be. Also, why aren't these cops searching the house for the first just do a deep search of the house. Go from top to bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that well, also, why aren't the girls doing a search for the house either? Like, where's Claire? I don't know. There's the
Maybe-
attic. Oh yeah, the attic
Yeah.
thing is open still. Maybe.
No, it's closed all the time. It's only opening when he goes in and out. Otherwise, it's completely closed and nobody goes there until Mrs. Mack goes in to search for the cat. And this is sort of like on Billy. You don't see Billy, right? Unless you see the silhouette of him behind that sort of nylon protective thing that Claire had on her clothes.
Mhm.
And you see later on at the sort of final chase with Jess, you see his eye that actually made it to the movie poster as well.
Yeah, the cutaway in the closet.
And
Yeah.
and you see his hand in like holding this hook in the darkness. There's darkness around him, and then you see there's this where I've got on the screen, and there's the opposite side where you see the actual point of the hook menacing and coming to get Mrs. Mack. And like I said, you only see bits and pieces of Billy throughout the film, and that really is Bob Clark's choice to do. And I think for the time, it actually did work because he did not want you to know who Billy really is,
Yeah.
which contributes to the misdirection that he did with Peter.
Mhm.
It totally worked in order to supplant the Peter angle to this whole entire thing. And
And-
how
Well, it almost makes it supernatural in a sense. Like he's not a real person or human because you don't see him, right? You see this bulging eye, you see his hands and the silhouette, but because we don't actually see him as a human being, there's a supernatural element to him, almost like a monster.
yeah,
Nadia,
and
I love how you make that point because Carpenter actually utilized that for Michael Myers. He wanted him to seem like this otherworldly being.
Mhm.
Like,
I was
he's-
just gonna say that too.
yeah, he's not just a psychopathic monster and a person. No, he's something other than that. He is evil itself.
What did they used to call him? The Shadow or something to that? That's what he was originally labeled as, not just Michael Myers.
Yeah.
The Prowler. He's in
The Prowler?
IMDb. If you look for it, it doesn't say Billy. It's called the Prowler.
Prowler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean in Halloween they called Michael Myers like either the
Oh.
Shadow or something different. Not just Michael Myers. Like that didn't come into play until later, but originally he was labeled something else, and I can't remember.
Oh no, I forgot. I forgot what it was. Because his name isn't actually revealed until is it the end of Halloween 2?
I think so. Hold on.
But in the interim, though, one thing the eye scene that we do, we always jump back and forth anyway, Meth. But
Yeah, it's fine.
from Billy,
The Shape.
Sorry, yeah, because I mentioned that on our Halloween review, Meth, because he was referred to as the Shape in the credits. Yeah,
Yeah.
I vaguely remember. It was 2 years ago.
Anyway, no, but the scene with Billy's eye in the closet area that actually gave Carpenter the idea of, wow, what would happen if someone was trapped in a closet, like not like Tom Cruise in this.
No,
but
the Hulk going after Jamie Lee Curtis's character.
yeah, and
in the
Michael
closet.
Myers,
Yeah.
That's where we
Yeah.
got the initial concept of the idea of that scene. Yeah,
That's
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Peter is being set up to be he's going to be the double killer because you never see him while the moaner is on the phone, or at this point he's not really a moaner. He has these rants and screams, and he's calling whoever's on the phone, he's calling them names, and it's sort of a mix because it's really is getting more and more disturbing as the phone calls continue, as they kind of we figure it out or they figure it out. I think it's us as viewers kind of figure out that after each murder, there's a call, or just before each murder there's a call. I don't remember.
It's after.
It's after, right? It's
Yeah.
after.
Well, initially it was kind of the setup, and especially like just to jump back, when the initial bit with Barb kind of basically poking and prodding Billy
Mhm.
on the phone, he actually finally says, "I'm going to kill you." And that's when it starts. And then they start getting subsequent calls after every murder or every kind of like major plot beat too, because Billy has a call with Jess where he basically reiterates their fight because he's in the house. He can hear them.
Yeah. And like I said, you kind of, and you're at this point where when Peter suddenly was in the house after the call, to me it was like, okay, it's Peter. They're
Mhm.
setting it up as Peter. Maybe it's a little bit too obvious. That's what I was thinking. It's like, maybe it's too obvious that it's Peter.
A red herring. Yep.
I don't know, but it was like, okay, I'm kind of being set up to it's Peter. Maybe it is, and then they're gonna. That's what my two initial thoughts was like. Okay, it's either Peter because it kind of is the progression of how things are going, or it's a red herring and it's gonna go a different way. Maybe it's Chris. Maybe it's the dad. I sort of like didn't know. The dad really doesn't really fit, but maybe I don't know. But that's where I was thinking on that initial kind of viewing.
Now, if this was M. Night Shyamalan, it would have been the dad. What a twist!
Actually, I think it would have been the cop, the first cop, if it was M. Night.
Could be. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fuller or Nash?
The one who didn't know what fellatio was.
Nash.
Oh, the
yeah.
desk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The desk sergeant or whatever he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That whole, like I said, that whole conversation about the career and where she wants to go and where he wants to go, that happens in this scene where he's suddenly in the house. And I was like, okay, this is like red flags all over the place. I'm just waiting for it to like pop off.
Well,
but it doesn't.
Also, his immediate turn to anger, like having a civil conversation, then it cuts back to him going, "You selfish bitch." Where it's like, whoa, where is this side of you, Peter? And then later when he calls crying on the, "Don't hurt the baby, don't hurt the baby," we're like, maybe it is him, and maybe he just had a full psychotic break.
Way to change your mind by calling her a selfish bitch.
Bitch, yeah. yeah. That's a really good idea too. Like, really make you like reconsider my marriage proposal, calling you a selfish bitch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, as soon as he leaves, the entire party comes in with Lieutenant Fuller, where Lieutenant Fuller is like, if you don't notice it, you don't notice it. But on my second viewing, he was giving him the sort of
he spoke out Peter immediately. Like, yeah, Peter's my number one suspect immediately.
No, he says that later on. Peter's my number one suspect.
No, but when you could tell by his look, though, he was already just like, yeah, I've got him pinned.
Yeah, but like I said, on like if you see it just the one time, you don't even notice it. I would notice it on the second time because I knew he was already thinking it's him because he saw him leave. And as soon as Peter walks out, the lieutenant kind of gives him the eye and doesn't really mention it until he talks to Jess and like, okay, who's this Peter guy and what's he doing and how did you got to talk to him? And he mentions the fact that Peter is suspect to somebody else. I think one of the other detectives or the guy who taps the phone. One of them. He's the guy who's like, yeah, I think it's him.
No, it was Graham, who's the guy who tapped the phone. He said, yeah, go ahead and trace that call too. Yeah.
Because there's a moment where he traces the call and he's like, yeah, it's probably Peter's place, right? And it's like, no, it comes from, and he gives them the same address. And he's like, oh shit, it's coming from inside the house.
That was later. That was
I mean, that's he thought it was Peter's place. I want to get to that moment. There's a moment where I love this, where he's like, do you see this car outside? Yes. It's like, I've got a guy in that car. And I was like, that guy is either
And
dead,
he's been dead for the
dead?
last like
Dead.
45
Yeah.
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
dead, going to die, or it's actually the murderer inside the car for some reason. That's what I was initially thinking. It's like, proved to be right. It is very well dead. Very well dead. But like I said, if you've watched other horror films of the
Mhm.
genre, of the same kind of slasher, and then you go back and watch this, you kind of get to like, okay, this is the final girl, this guy's dead, that girl's gonna die, Barb's definitely gonna die.
Oh yeah,
Barb is definitely gonna die. Mrs. Mack is either going to die or like maybe. And then it's like, okay, I knew this.
And then have a joke at the very end, like they do in some like horror films, especially from the late 90s to early like mid 2000s. There would always be like a comedy relief character, Nadia, that would kind of survive, and that would be Mrs. Mack. Like she would tell some sarcastic joke at the end, being hauled away on an ambulance or something. You know, that I could see very easily. But Meth, are you seeing now where all of the tropes come from? This is kind of why I really wanted you to watch this movie so much.
And you did like say, no, go ahead, Nadia.
Randy from Screams 1 and well, he dies in 2, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
You did kind of slightly say it to me without actually giving it away. Plus, you know, my memory is all over the place. Mm-hmm. And if you would have told me why, I would have forgotten it before actually watching it.
That's
so, yeah. But as soon as stuff happens and it's sort of within the tropes of the specifically the slasher genre or the subgenre, I would say, I was like, oh, this is why specifically he told me to watch this. And it's always deliberate when it's movies that was supposed to see and not watched. But yeah, I do like it and I do recognize it. That's why I was kind of fooled by the whole Peter angle, because at some point I really thought it was him. And the first time the twist did get me because, well, we'll talk about it. Never mind. But I do want to bring in this because it always goes back sort of like they're using Claire's body as a sort of okay, we've done this and now we're going to look at Claire and then we're going to move on to the next bit. And from this point where she's literally holding a dolly, kind of being sort of posed as we kind of know it's replacement Agnes of sorts.
Yeah.
Right?
Sister, yep.
Mm-hmm. As with the dolly, with the doll is burnt, so it went through something. And like, okay. And from this point on, this is after Mrs. Mack is dead. Now the killings are starting to be a little bit of a higher pace. It's not super high pace, but it goes a little bit further and further. So next one is
also, you notice too, the brutality of the murders increases as he gets deeper into his psychosis.
Yeah, and there's that point where we kind of know, we don't know, but we kind of know he was in Barb's room, and she maybe he tried to choke her or something, and she woke up and was choking. We kind of understand that she has an asthma problem. Jess comes in, gives her the inhaler, and it's like, okay, go to sleep, rest. You'll be fine tomorrow. And as she leaves, this is kind of the first time we get to actually see some blood, because Mrs. Mack gets killed, but you don't really see the blood. You see it get yanked away from the from the top of the stairs or the top of the attic, but you don't really see any blood until later on when you see the pose as she is juxtaposition with Claire's body.
Yeah.
But the first kind of like shock where you see a bloody hand and it gets smashed all over these like delicate glass wands, that's like the first time you kind of get to see any real violence, because everything else is off screen.
It's very, very
Mhm.
true. It also you could also just really tell just by the decor in her room, the time. That
Yeah.
Barb's room is just 100% 1970s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another juxtaposition is the fact that this awful murder comes in when the carolers are outside. I want to get to that specific point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. It's sort of like you see the carolers singing, and then it switches to Barb's, like the Billy going into Barb's room probably yet again, killing her, and then Jess is standing there listening to these carolers, and these two moms or one mom comes in. It's like, get the
gotta
kids
go. Yeah.
out of here. Why?
I-
It's like, get them out. As soon as the kids kind of go out of earshot, she's like, they found this high schooler dead. We need to get the kid.
Jess already knew about it too.
No, but the other, so
Other mom,
the mom that kind of led these carolers onto the streets is like, be quiet.
Also, Nadia, you and I have seen enough horror films. Those soulless dead eyes of those kids scare me way more than Billy ever would.
Village of the Dam. Village of the Dam, my friend.
Village of the Dam,
Children of the Corn.
Children of the
Village
Corn,
of the Dam. Yep.
I would say more like Children of the Corn than Village of the Dam. I have seen Village of the Dam, not the original. Seen the not really good
Christian Alley
remake.
one.
Yeah, but Mark Hamill dies in it, so who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a definitely a Stephen King trope with soulless eye kids.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm. So they do get the phone tap in, and they do give it I think there's a couple of calls. So right after Barb gets killed, there's that call, and they already have that trace, but it's not enough time. And then the other girl gets killed.
Also, as an aside, Meth, this is also one of the first films that utilizes the phone tracing bit where you have to keep them on the line. You have to keep them on the line.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
That's cool.
Didn't they do that in the French Connection?
Partially.
Oh, I have to go back.
Yeah. Go back and watch it. It's really good.
I'm gonna go to something that really made me laugh because it's sort of very of today, but not really. It's the "Stay Out of My Lawn" character, the farmer.
Yeah,
It's like
the buckshot. I think I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring here get all the buckshot out of my eye.
No. It's specifically he said birdshot.
Birdshot, yeah.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you why. It's just because of Dave Chappelle's bit in I think in the 2019 thing that he does. I don't remember the name of the special, but in that special he said he's living in Ohio and there's people going through his backyard or whatever, and he's like, yeah, it's time to get a gun. I'm in Ohio, and he goes to the gun owner, and he's like, I need a gun, and he's like, okay, you want this 12 gauge? Okay, 12 gauge it is. Which bullets do you need? And the guy's like, there's birdshot and there's buckshot, and he explains them that he needs to put in the birdshot first because it will just pepper a motherfucker, not kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I went to there, and I remembered it specifically birdshot because he just wanted to pepper him a little bit, not actually kill a police officer. Because when they do confront him, and in front of everybody there, he's like,
and I do it again.
Next time I'll do it again, but I'll kill you.
Oddly enough, what this scene actually reminded me of so much, Meth? Hot Fuzz.
Kind of.
The old man on the farm. He's like, I heard you got guns.
I
Couldn't understand him. And he shows his arsenal and the mine.
I love that movie.
It's so good. Hot Fuzz is the best of that trilogy. I'm sorry, it is.
It is. So then next on the chopping block, again, this is after the trace is in. it's this girl that I forgot her name.
Poor Phyllis. Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta come back
Phyllis.
to Phyllis.
And I like the actress. She was in like lots of stuff. She was in My Greek Wedding, and she was in Wag the Dog. She was one of the lackeys in Wag the Dog. I like it. She
Well,
was like the
she was
costume artist.
the other mate of from Second City that Gilda Radner actually got her the role.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the girl. She's been like a character actress in a lot of stuff, but just a 2-liner, 3-liner, 4-liner, not too much. This was like compared to those, this is like a major role, but she got less money from it probably. But she's up next, and then we get that second call, or that second time where they do kind of get an idea of what's going on, but not enough. I think, right? There's two calls that they just couldn't get enough of until
it was the killer, and then it was Peter calling back saying, "Don't hurt the baby," and then Fuller calls Jess back as in like, "So what's going on with this baby thing?"
Yeah. And then he's like, "Who's this Peter again?" And then he's like, "Okay, this is the bit." And we did kind of skip over the fact that Peter, after he leaves the house, he goes to the recital hall and grabs a mic stand and completely destroys the Steinway, like eviscerates him. And when Lieutenant Fuller kind of gets like a major suspicion, he goes into that recital hall and he sees how this piano got destroyed. It's like, okay, he is in full rage. It must be him. So before the movie ends, we'll do our second game of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
Screen Fighter is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with your significant other, two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? Special First Christmas. Go. Home Alone or Pulp Fiction?
Wow.
One.
This is easy.
I know it's easy for you. Chat participation is most welcome. Give us your movie. Nadia, you go first.
I'm going with Pulp Fiction on this one. I just like it more than Home Alone. Home Alone's great. It's great, especially learning if you learn more about the behind the scenes and making of it, it's fantastic. It's a great family movie. But for my particular taste, I'm going with Pulp Fiction.
You should watch our review on that, Nadia, because, oh boy, there's a lot about that movie. Chris Columbus did a lot of work for that movie.
Yeah.
In some ways, the fact that Chris Columbus did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, really fits.
Yeah.
Really fits, because halfway through the movie, it literally becomes a Christmas movie for 10 minutes.
Well, all Harry Potter movies are Christmas movies.
Yes, but especially with Chris Columbus behind the wheel. Feelings? There's no question. It's Pulp Fiction. It's your favorite movie of all time.
Yep.
To me, it's my second favorite movie of all time. So I'm going to go with Pulp Fiction. Even though I did watch Home Alone recently, it's still good. I don't care who you are, what you are. Home Alone is a great movie. It's a great Christmas movie if you're into that sort of okay, it's time for Christmas. It's a standalone. You can watch it all throughout the year.
And you know what? I am man enough to admit I am just like George Costanza. Yes, the old man story still gets me too.
I will say Pulp Fiction is not my favorite Tarantino movie, but it is one of my favorite movies.
Which one is?
Reservoir Dogs.
Interesting.
That's an interesting conversation.
Very interesting. Contagion, which got like super big during the early days of the pandemic, and Next with Cage.
Oh boy,
I've never seen Next.
Okay,
but I have seen Contagion, so I guess I would go Contagion.
You want to re-roll on that one?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
This made it way easier for me.
Yeah, that's a lot easier.
I'm going with A Few Good Men on this one.
All right. Feelings?
You can't handle the truth.
Nope. You can't handle the truth. You goddamn right I did. It's Few Good Men.
Good.
It's one of the things that I have on my list to do a review of next year. For sure. Prometheus.
You have never seen Mountain Justice.
I've never seen Mountain Justice.
Yeah.
I've never seen Mountain Justice. Here we go. Much better. Much
Easy. Gremlins 2.
That's
I
so
never wanna
goddamn
see-
easy. Yes.
I never want to see Prometheus ever
And
again.
also, Gremlins 2 ties into Christmas. Let's go. Gremlins 2.
Yes.
Let's go.
Gremlins 2. Oh.
I have not seen Cairo.
haven't
I have
Did you see
seen-
Deep
long
Blue Sea?
time.
A motherfucking shark. Hey.
I'm going Dracula. It's one of my
Dracula.
listen, I know Keanu Reeves can't act in it, but it is
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies. I watch it throughout the year, probably 2 to 3 times. So I'm going with Dracula. I just love the aesthetic of it.
Okay.
I would say that Gary Oldman is probably the best Dracula.
Until we see Nosferatu, but that's
Yeah,
Bella Lugosi for me.
I know
Sorry.
I love Bela Lugosi too, but I think Gary Oldman just nailed it. I do have to go Bram Stoker's Dracula, even though I would enjoy watching Deep Blue Sea just for laughs. Because again, shark did eat Samuel L. Jackson out,
Yeah, Jackson.
and it is funny every single time it happens. In that movie.
There's sharks in this place. I'm not even kidding. To me, it's Bram Stoker's Dracula. And because Cage was on for a second, Cage was supposed to do the Keanu Reeves role.
Yes, he was.
Remember, it's
Oh.
Francis Ford Coppola who directed Bram Stoker's Dracula. But even though he was his nephew, Francis did not want to work with Nicolas Cage at
No.
all. So
Francis Coppola actually told Cage, "I'm sorry, but you just overact too much."
He lives here in Las Vegas. So my husband ran into him at one of his jobs like 2 years ago. Him and his girlfriend or wife at the time were shopping for like palm trees and stuff like that for their place.
I would say that also Nicolas Cage, you owe way too much in tax debt. You shouldn't be shopping, buddy.
No, he's out of it now. He's out
Oh, he
of
is
it
now?
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he sell his
And
like
it-
14 mansions and his
Yeah.
mausoleums and shit?
And his
Yeah.
dinosaur fossils and stuff.
not anymore. It's all belongs to the IRS.
Yeah.
Ooh, the real enemy of the people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Uh,
Deny.
yeah,
No,
be
just
lucky
kidding.
you don't.
Just kidding. We have our own IRS. It's good, bad
Oh.
enough. Anyway, it all came all the way back around in 2023, where Cage played Dracula in Renfield. And by the way,
Mhm.
Yeah.
he said he was going for a Christopher Lee Dracula, but if you watch the movie,
Oh no.
he's more of a. He started off as a Bela Lugosi, and then he became a Cage Dracula.
Yeah. he
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
I did not like that movie. Is yeah.
I did. It's fun.
Okay, I know
Now-
you haven't seen about the original Stranger on the Train is actually a really, really good fucking movie, and I know you
I
haven't
have
that.
seen Strange.
Oh, you
I
have?
have
Okay.
seen this
Okay.
a long time ago.
It's a good
Yes.
movie.
I have
Right
not seen
around the time
Strangers
that
on
I've
the
seen
Train.
Citizen Kane. Strangers on the Train, the original, is I want to say spooky, but it wasn't trying to be spooky.
Yeah.
It wasn't trying to be spooky.
It's a
And
good
then there's Batman and Robin.
movie. So go ahead and do a reroll for Nadia on Stranger on the Train.
All right.
Oh,
This is not any better.
Yes.
It's
it's-
not.
This is much better because
this is
the
actually
choice-
way better for me.
I'm going with Batman and Robin.
you're going Batman and Robin.
I'm
Okay.
going-
You're going for the bat card.
I had a-
Expiration never.
I had a crush on Crystal Donald when this came out, so I was
It's
big
fine.
into the Batman. Yeah, so
fair.
I'm going with Batman and Robin.
well, Nadia, what killed the dinosaurs?
The
The
Ice Age.
Ugh.
It was
They're talking
Ice
about-
to you, Nadia.
There's rumors that Freeze is supposed to be the next villain for the Batman 2. There's rumors, but I don't know how they're gonna pull that off.
Pattinson and Batman should not be in the same sentence.
This
Anyway,
is skin of a killer, Bella. This is skin of a killer.
yes. So feelings, Batman and Robin or Beavis and a Butthead?
I absolutely hated Batman and Robin. I couldn't get into it and everything. But Beavis and Butthead Do America did justice to Beavis and Butthead because it was dumb as hell. And the best part about it was the government official giving his subordinate shit about using a preposition at the beginning of a sentence. It was like, I don't know why this is funny, but it's really funny.
Right. I'm going to give you my answer with a song.
Roller coaster?
Roller coaster
Yeah.
of love. Oh
Red
my
Hot,
God.
the Red
that
Hot Chili
song did
Peppers
not-
cover of Roller Coaster of Love is one of the best covers of the mid-90s. That's a really, really good cover.
That song did not go out of my head for a month.
Yeah.
I had, it was one of the first CDs that I had was the soundtrack of Beavis and Butthead Do America. One of the first ones. Most of the stuff that I had before was like cassettes. Whew.
Well, that also like how it fit into Chili Peppers' wheelhouse anyway, because they're more funk rock than anything, especially with Flea's bass playing. Like
it's
they fit right in the pocket there.
I want to say that they fit in terms of a sort of a rock band. They fit the 90s much more than they fit the sort of late 80s. You would agree?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Even
yeah.
it's like I think Blood Sugar Sex Magic was what 88, 89, but it was much more of a 91, 92, 93 type of album.
Wait, no, I thought
we can argue about that like at a later date,
Blood
but
Sugar
yeah.
Sex Magic came out in like 91? I thought Give It Away came out in 91.
I'm not sure. I know they started like 88 or 89.
They started in their 80s, and also the funny side story about the Chili Peppers when they would actually perform initially in their shows. Nadia, I'm sure you know this. they would literally wear cock socks. They would literally wear socks on. Yep, that's it.
Do you know who owned that famous poster of theirs?
Huh.
My wife.
Ah. My wife.
My way.
By the way, the other poster she had was the 1978 Lord of the Rings, and that's why we're married.
Okay. All right. Balance.
You were right. It came out September of 91. So yeah, it had the 91 song, 91 sound because it was from 91. Yeah. I remembered it came out before, but I guess. See, Swiss cheese brain. All right. Let's get back to wrapping up this movie. All right. So they're tracing the call. They kind of figuring out they can't really figure out what's going on because there's not enough time. Phyllis gets murdered. We get another call, and that last call after Phyllis. Do you remember the name of the guy who was doing the taps?
Graham.
This guy, Graham. So Graham is like, he's going through this, and I love the fact that he is tracing the call through. How exactly going through the switch box?
It's going through switchboards, yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, this is the one. And he's even tapping it with his finger. And it's like, oh, this is the one. How did he know that was particularly the one? By listening to it on the phone? I have no idea, but I'm going to let it slide.
It's science. Just let it go.
It's science. Yeah, science is all around.
Hey, the only difference between science and magic is we just don't understand how magic works yet.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. I say that on my D&D table all the time.
Exactly. Magic missile. All right.
Yes.
I had a long conversation about that when I was 13 years old with a guy I was playing D&D with on like the first rule book. And he's like, and to be fair, it was translated from magic missile into magic arrow in my language. And it was like, how is it magic if it's an arrow? Long conversation that I really don't want to have again. Anyway, Lieutenant Fuller is like, okay, it's coming from inside the house. I've got a man outside. I'm gonna call him on the radio. He's calling him on the radio, and of course, there's that winding shot where you kind of start to see the car, and it goes up to inside of the car, and the guy's got his throat slashed.
And again,
I was like,
Mhm.
of course.
Meth, as we know, as the modern audience, again, we know that, yeah, of course he's dead. But them, it was a big shock. Like, he killed
Oh
her
yeah, back then I
too?
can't.
I would imagine so.
Somebody's-
Yeah.
I would imagine so. And then we have kind of the last sequence where Jess is finally starting to go upstairs and look in the house room by room.
We do have to do a pause for 1 second and just
Sure.
give a note to what a shitty cop Sergeant Nash is.
Who's Sergeant Nash? The desk
guy.
sergeant? Okay.
Fuller tells him, call her, don't make her panic. The call's coming in from inside the house, but don't let her know that, otherwise she's going to panic. What does he do? The call's coming inside the house.
Yeah. And what does she do? She locks the door after she knows the guy's in the house. She goes to the door, locks the door.
No. She had already locked the door because that's when the search party guys popped.
Oh,
in the window
that's
and
right. That's
scared
right. Okay,
Phyllis.
okay.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, and also, did you realize that only one of the windows was actually locked? And so that's when they went around the house, and then Jess started locking the doors and windows on the first floor.
But then why not just, if you know the call's coming from inside?
Why wouldn't you
Go
just go outside? Yeah, thank you,
Like-
Nadia. Come on.
The door she answered with the search party, Phyllis was still alive.
Yeah.
It was the
Oh, so
back
she was-
door. The front door she locked later. I had to
wow.
look.
So good. Well, then she's just super dumb.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She could have unlocked a door and went outside.
Exactly. She still could have unlocked and left, but she went upstairs to look in the rooms for some reason.
And I'm sorry, like in my college, I know a lot of girls that went sororities. They did not care for their sorority sisters. There is no way they're gonna start looking for them. Like, oh, I'm sorry, bitch. I'm gonna save my own life. Bye.
You got to put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let the cops deal with it.
But I like the fact that she goes out into the fireplace and gets the fire poker, right? To defend herself instead of leaving the house. But never mind. We need a final chase, so you can't.
Well, because also again,
Can't really
the
do
setup,
it
too,
without
the
a
setup
final
where,
chase.
Where Fuller also already told her that there's an officer outside. Why wouldn't you go outside to the officer's car?
Yeah.
Women. I want to get to a specific point because
Hey, you said it. I didn't.
And like I said
Oh,
before,
there's
this
not,
is that point where she just pushed the door on him. She can hear him scream. She goes out and then she turns around and all we see is it's kind of implied that she's looking at him and he's looking at her, but I don't know the angle, but she's looking up and we see this shot of his eye looking at her and he's sort of screaming, cackling. We don't gurgling.
Well, it's important to know that he's fully in a psychosis because he's seeing her as Agnes because he keeps referring to her as Agnes. Like, don't you tell them what we did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is
and then
basically referring back to there is some very, very dark stuff in Billy's history.
and to be fair, again, it doesn't really make sense in terms of real life, but in movie theory, she goes to the basement and locks the basement instead of going out the house. Panic.
She shouldn't have survived. To be honest. No.
And he bangs on the door a couple of times and sort of gives up. and she's huddled in the corner. And of course, as soon as we get that, we get the other trope of, oh, the savior coming from the other side, but it's probably the killer in disguise. And lo and behold, it's Peter. And this is exactly what we're supposed to think, because this is exactly what Jess is supposed to think. Oh, he can't go in through here. He's coming through the sort of the basement windows.
Yeah.
Because Peter is he's trying to look in the window. He couldn't really tell, and then he breaks the window instead of trying to get Jess to open it up. I want to get to that point. And yeah.
Well, to
there.
be fair, also, Peter's not doing himself any favors.
Oh,
when
no.
it comes to any of his actions in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and like I said, in the silhouette, you kind of realize it's Peter, but you're already in that mood of, oh, it's the killer, right? It could be the killer. And they're already suspecting him. You're already led down that path of, yeah, it's probably Peter, because they kind of mentioned the fact that whenever there's a call, there's no Peter. But even Jess mentions it to Fuller. She's like, no, wait a minute. There was a call, and Peter was like right there with me.
Right there. And
But
that was
when-
before she found out that it was from inside the house. Because that's
And
when
when-
she was talking to Phyllis, where it's like, well, it could have been Peter because obviously he was here with me when I got the call. So
Yeah, and for us as the audience, we're like, oh, no. You must understand, it comes from the house. It kind of fits. Everything fits. And we don't actually see her confront Peter, but when the cops show up,
you just hear the scream. That's
yeah, you can just hear the scream as the cops show up. And I want to get to that point where Fuller comes in and all he sees is, it's...
Well, Peter's dead.
Yeah.
Jess is still alive, but she is knocked out.
Yeah, and she's unconscious from the hysteria, whatever.
Well, because she's in some kind of shock, but it's also where now. So, did Billy ever come back for her, and she doesn't know, or does she still assume that it was Peter? So she killed Peter to save herself. So she's in shock and almost catatonic. So she can't tell them that. Well, she's still under the assumption that it's still Peter, or did the killer actually come back, kill Peter, and then knock her out, or the ambiguity is there.
I think she killed him.
Yeah.
With thinking that but I thought when she was upstairs with Billy, she got a glimpse of what he looks like from behind the door.
She did.
She
just see his eye. That was it.
Just the eye.
She pushed the door on him, and it's probably hit him or something, because he screamed. And she ran away, turned around, and then you see that eye.
The eye.
And that's slit.
But I thought doesn't he grab her hair when she's going down the stairs?
Yeah, she does grab her hair, which I would think that she would be able to look up, and then also like, I don't care how out of it I was unless I was completely unconscious, because when they find her, she's conscious. She's a little bit shocked, but she could at least go like, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
There's someone else.
And what they do is, of course, they sedate her, or the doctor kind of sedates her and is like, oh, she'll be up tomorrow. I think Chris asks him, the doctor, can we talk to her?
No, Fuller does, because Fuller wants to
it's Fuller. Okay.
Yeah, but also get it. Nadia, you said it first. Women. I'm kidding. I'm playing as a joke.
I also thought, going back to the fact that she's not a virgin,
no,
but she's pregnant, so she's a mother. So kind of could maybe replace that trope, because a virgin and a mother is kind of placed on the same.
Well, and two, because you would think if they were to set it to be the actual full prototype, it'd be Claire who would be the one who is the overall final girl,
innocent one. Yeah. Yep.
And I think it's about purity. I think more like I said, it's virgin-esque or virgin-like, pure as in innocent. And when it comes to sex, it's dirty. It's not innocent. That's the whole bit about it. Comes from, I don't want to say Christian, but because it's It's like that in Judaism and in Islam the same way.
It's
So-
all base morality.
It's
Yes.
it's morality based rather than
Yeah.
sort of full on religion based. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and in today's date, she would be the first to go by mentioning abortion and stuff. She'd be the first one to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said,
Well,
it's
probably not the
may-
first. The first one would have been Barb, because
Yeah,
Barb.
probably.
Oh
would've
yeah,
gotten
that's
got.
true. Yeah.
Maybe it's because they weren't trying to do any prototype. Like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they didn't try to do a prototype or a trope that later on got sort of replicated and changed and going
Correct,
to several different directions. This wasn't trying to go in several different directions. This was sort of Bob Clark's vision for it.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
essentially the mold, and then the trope got built off of it later.
Yeah.
Where
And-
like a virginal mentality and moral purity was kind of sacrosanct as who is the actual full protagonist of the story, and everyone around her, obviously she has her cadre of friends, and they all fit their own certain niches. But if you notice that like all of the niches are already filled in the prototypes in
Mhm.
this film, and also in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're already there. They just didn't have that final girl syndrome built yet, even though there is a
Also the
female
70s.
survivor. But yeah, 70s too, Nadia.
Yeah.
And one of the things about the ending is, I think, just a thought, I think Bob Clark went into the more of a Hitchcockian ending rather than like your typical horror film, whatever. There's no typical, but your thriller kind of we got a definite ending to this. So like in
Yes.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it ends, there is an ending. There's no going back because the girl kind of goes on this truck and they leave off. She's full of blood and everything. And here, there's the killer is still out there, just like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the killer is still out there. The Leatherface is still alive. It's just one of the other kids got mauled by the truck. The father is still alive. The other, like the granddad's still alive. And here she's still alive. She is under medication, so she's basically unconscious or asleep. And Billy is still up there because we know as everything kind of pans out. So the camera kind of pans out of the room, and then it pans out of the house. Although we do see snippets of Billy kind of in there, and it kind of ends.
Well, no, you don't see Billy at all. You just hear him.
You hear him, and
Which I think is far more unnerving. I have to give Bob
Yes.
Clark the utmost credit because the ending of this film is very unnerving. The pan out shot of Mrs. Mack still hanging, then the pan out zoom to where you have Claire in the window with the bag over her head still, and him just with a little bit of the Christmas music, and then the phone just starts ringing, where it's like,
yeah, and
Ugh.
it's not over. It's not over.
And another creepy fact of this whole kind of zooming out of the house, zooming out of the window where Claire, they still don't know where Claire is at the end of this.
Yep.
Technically. But there is a cop at the porch guarding the house so nobody would enter in.
And they still didn't check the attic. They still didn't check the attic.
Didn't check the attic.
I would still also, if you look up, you can kind of just see her right there.
No. You
from
can
the
see
shot.
her
You
in the
can
room.
see.
Yeah, she is in that shot. It's like it's the sort of if you see, there's a cop here, the body's over there. Nobody's going up there to check it. All throughout the movie,
And she's been there
especially in
for
the
a
ending.
solid day.
And also,
At least.
it would smell too. So,
Uh,
the sm-
Takes a while to smell. It smells
Yeah.
2-3 days later.
I mean, we're about 2 days into this, or is this? Yeah,
No.
Almost 2 days. Yeah.
And
almost.
and it's also very cold. I think
Oh, fair enough.
originally,
Yeah.
I think it was 10 below when they shot this.
Ooh, no wonder for the fur jacket.
Well, because
It's
it was
so
shot
weird because-
mostly on location at the University of was it Toronto, right?
Think so,
think it was
but
UT,
there's two things. It was sort of extra cold when they shot this, and B, there was not a lot of snow. So a lot of the snow parts you see, it's mostly like those the fake snow.
The fake
not
snow they
really-
have to bring in.
Yeah, because
Well,
it was.
I do know one thing though.
Mm.
Chris's actor's jacket made him really warm.
Yeah, I was just say that jacket's. He's like, he's probably like, I'm so glad I brought this with me.
Like,
Yeah, but
Brad, I brought this from home. God damn, it's cold out.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
oh,
one-
oh, oh, I'm sorry for you, but I'm warm.
sorry.
that's what I was saying. Sort of, it's sort of a lesser snow year, but a very cold year. Especially when they shot this. I think they shot it what? September, November, October. Don't remember when, but it was a very fast shoot. It was a very fast from shoot to movie. I think, right?
Sounds like Chicago cold. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
it's definitely it's Midwest cold, where it's like
Midwest cold.
Yep, it didn't snow, but just walk outside,
Your
it's freezing.
face is frozen. Yep.
I wouldn't know anything about it. Anyway, that kind of brings us to the end. So let's do a quick wrap up. Nadia, give us your quick summary of the movie. Likes, dislikes, whatever comes to mind.
This is one of my favorite movies. It probably makes my top 10 list if somebody were to ask me, give me a top 10 on horror movies. It's very influential to movies that come after it. Like I said earlier, even Terrifier 3 had a nod to it. I think it's very brutal. Even rewatching it, it still gets under my skin. Maybe it's just because of point of view from a woman and having dealt with creepy men in my life. So I would recommend the original. I would never recommend the remakes. Don't even waste your time with it.
Before we go to you, Feelings, and get the remakes side, as a first watch and a not like horror connoisseur, I did pick up on all the sort of, we'll call it basic tropes. And because I picked up on the basic tropes, that whole angle with Peter kind of threw me off a little bit. And to be fair, I kind of liked it. That first watch where kind of like, okay, it's leading towards Peter. It's going to be Peter. It's going to be Peter. And then getting my rug pulled under me. I like that. I like when a movie kind of like, oh, it's so obvious. Come on. It's so obvious. And then it's not that obvious. And then it leaves off as a Hitchcock kind of an ending. Awesome. And in terms of liking the movie, I'm not sure I'm going to go back to it. It's not my thing. It's just not my thing. If it was my thing, I would go back to it. If it's just not. So we're going to leave it there.
At least you're willing to watch it at least once. I know a lot of people who, if you mention horror, they're like, nope, I'm out. Not even giving it a try, even if it's not your cup of tea.
I was that guy. I think ever since we started the show, I'm much more open to try new things.
Yeah.
Although some things, my feelings, are not meant to be watched again because they suck.
Oh.
We're not going to mention it again. All right. Feelings, get a little bit of information on the remake and then we'll close the show.
Well, they're technically remakes, but they're not really remakes. It's really weird. Nadia is they're kind of in that they're kind of like tied into a Black Christmas quote unquote side universe. So they all kind of tie back into the original film in its own way. The 2006 film is what you'd expect from a 2006 slasher horror film. It's this film without any subtlety whatsoever. It's basically just, well, here's our group of girls. You know immediately which one's which. You don't even need to know their names. You know which one's which, and you know which one's going to die first. And I guarantee you're right. Now, the 2019 version is a little bit different. Did you see that one, Nadia?
Nope.
I know you're okay. So
Nope.
this one's different because it's based off of the original, like Billy, but Billy was part of a cult, and the cult was part of a fraternity thing, and it's all their ritual, and it's It's
It's
more
the
like
same face we're making. So,
it's more of
Yeah.
like it's more of a girl boss movie where the sorority girls fight back against the frat guys at the end after they kill a couple of the girls. It's a really bad movie. It stars Imogen Poots, who I can't say her name without giggling like a 3-year-old.
all right.
But yeah, I would definitely just don't watch.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch either.
Yep.
They're
Watch
terrible.
Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
Watch Terrifier 3.
Oh yes, definitely do watch that. Yeah, because that's fun.
Not a recommendation from me, but these guys.
Side
are
note,
much
by the way,
more of a-
Meth, I don't know if you know this. Chris Jericho is in Terrifier 3.
At the end of 2 as well.
Not
Yeah.
a big attraction to me. not a big
Well,
attraction.
I know you knew about
Jericho.
wrestling, so just throw that out there.
Chris Jericho is not. It's like, oh, do you know The Rock is in this movie? So
Well, but
The Rock is not a reason for me to go and watch a movie.
But he's Dwayne Johnson now. He's not The Rock anymore.
I don't
Yeah.
care. If he's not gay with an afro, I don't want to watch that movie. I don't even want to watch him. I don't even want to watch him.
Was that
as
Get
the
Shorty?
It's the Get Shorty 2, which is
2, yeah.
There's
awful.
a sequel
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a sequel, yeah.
Get
to that
Shorty
awful
or
movie.
Yeah.
Get Shorty
No.
Yeah,
or
it's
so
bad.
Get Shorty is about the movies. I don't remember the name of the second one, but Get Shorty 2 is about the music industry.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And The Rock plays a gay dude.
The Rock,
It is.
The Rock,
And it's the
and
most, like,
Vince, and
offensive.
Vince Vaughn are the best parts of that movie.
Yeah,
About-
yeah.
I'm not
Nope,
even joking.
I'm good. I'm good. I think I'll be
Yeah,
okay.
you're good.
Would never
You're
do
good.
that.
Get Shorty is
But-
perfect as it is.
Anyway, back to back to Black Christmas. I think
Yeah.
there's a reason why when I thought of this concept of December to Dismember, I was like, we have to start with this movie because I
Alright.
know that you haven't seen it, Meth, and like this just is one of the basically the hallmarks of what a slasher horror film is. Be cool. That's what it is, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got to on this one, and we'll continue next week with another one, buddy.
Yep.
Take it away.
Next week is the 1984 classic Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I've not seen it. All I know is Fran Drescher gets killed in it.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep.
That's what I know about it. That's all
Feelings,
I know.
You should have Meth watch the Jack Frost horror movies.
I don't think I could get him to.
I know.
It's very hard
It's
for me to
completely
do.
not. Really,
I would say there's like a little Shannon Elizabeth with a carrot in the bathroom.
yeah.
It's not a big appeal to me, Shannon Elizabeth. She's a very pretty girl.
Well, with the Jack Frost 2, where his essence went down to a Caribbean island and somehow he's still formed. It's like, how? What? You're a
Magic.
snowman. What?
I'm good.
How-
I would gladly watch a classic horror film, like, I don't know, Freddy's Revenge, which is awful, by the way.
Red Snow. There you go.
Oh, Red Snow. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to stop here before it goes all completely sideways. Nadia, thank you for joining us. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Please tell us, what are you going to do in the next month?
So next Saturday, on my channel, I have a group of us going over Thanksgiving and Christmas horror movies, doing a tier list of it. So that should be, I believe, at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So tune in and then just follow my socials. I'm everywhere. I don't know where I'm going to be this week, but I'm everywhere.
Nadia, I'm assuming Thanksgiving 3 is number 1, right?
We'll see. We'll see. I've got some interesting movies. I sent a list to my panel. Some of them they have not seen. Some of them they have, so it'll be interesting.
I would
Jack
say
Frost 1 and 2 are on that list.
If
So-
your panel votes for Jack Frost 3, they should not be on your panel.
or they should, depending on the way you look at it. So
Exactly.
Fair enough.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Please be sure to catch Nadia. Go subscribe to her channel. How close are you to 1,000? Or did you pass 1,000?
Not yet. I need still 400, about 400 subs still. So
Go subscribe to Nadia's channel. It's legitimately a
Oh!
great.
Yep.
Oops,
What?
Sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
I did. I did just drop a review on Werewolves that got released over the weekend. I got a screener for it, but I also did an interview with the director. I was able to interview him, and that is on my channel as well
Nice.
about the
Nice.
movies and stuff. So if you
Go
are a
watch it.
werewolf fan, yeah, practical effects guy, go watch it. He's got a lot of insight on stuff. So
Nice. And go subscribe to our channel, get her to 1,000. That extra hump really does help. All
Thank
right.
you.
And go watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. Come back to us next week. And remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. See you next week.
You're still here? It's over.